Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this session of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we are attempting to overview the 11th chapter of the 3rd canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatho Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhaite Girim Yat Kripatamaham Mande Sri.Govardhana Bharvananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Iswaram Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madegabando Matsangin Madguru Manmahadana Mannistarga Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 11, the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya is progressing. And this particular chapter, Maitreya Muni is explaining about how time is calculated. How time is calculated right from the most basic unit of time calculation up till Brahma's lifespan. Because as far as the Jivatma is concerned, the widest information that can be available to him is one lifetime of Brahma. So starting from the smallest unit of time till the lifetime of Brahma gets discussed in this particular chapter. So we understand that Vidura previously requested Maitreya that please can you describe about eternal time. And so as an answer to that question of Vidura, Maitreya is now explaining how time is calculated. So first matter is discussed. You know why? Because time and space are correlative terms. And time is measured in terms of its covering a certain space of atoms by the movement of the sun. This is what Srila Prabhupada says about time. So beginning of the chapter, Maitreya starts discussing about Maitreyovacha charamas sadvisheshanam aneko samyuta sada paramanu savijneyo nrinam aikya brahmo yataha. The material manifestation's ultimate particle, which is indivisible and not formed into a body, is called the atom. It exists always as an invisible identity, even after the dissolution of all forms. The material body is but a combination of such atoms, but it is misunderstood by common men. So this is how the beginning of this chapter, this is being explained. And Prabhupada says that this Paramanu, where what Maitreya Muni is speaking about is actually the Vaisheshika Siddhanta of Canada. Not Canada, a disciple of Vyasa named Kannada. Kannada also you can say, whichever. So this disciple of Vyasa only after there is a Nyaya school and then there is a Vaisheshika school. So in Vaisheshika school, they speak about this Paramanuvada. Means Paramanu being the ultimate result, the ultimate Karana, they explain. That is Kannada's Vaisheshikavada. It is also called as Paramanuvada. So Maitreya Muni is beginning by explaining that the basic particle, material particle is Paramanu. So Prabhupada says that even in modern science, we will find the same description about the basic material particle is a Paramanu, and then goes on to further explain that based on, and what is Parama Mahan, atoms are the ultimate state of the manifest universe. When they stay in their own forms without forming different bodies, they are called the unlimited oneness. They are certainly different bodies. There are certainly different bodies in physical forms, but the atoms themselves form the complete manifestation. Kaivalyam Paramamahan Avishesho Nirantaraha. So this most basic Paramanu particle also, Maitreya is explaining that they are also complete, And then Maitreya says, one can estimate time by measuring the movement of the atomic combination of bodies. Time is a potency of the Almighty Personality of Godhead Hari, who controls all physical movement, although he is not visible in the material world. Atomic time is measured according to its covering a particular atomic space. That time which covers the unmanifest aggregate of atoms is called the great time. Sato Vishesha Bhugyastu Sakala Paramo Mahan. So actually time is calculated based on how this atom is moving through time, through space, sorry. So that is what Maitreya is explaining to Vidura, that for us the important thing is that this whole time, or this thing called Kala, this manifestation called time, is actually one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. And this energy is in Prakat Bhava, or this energy is in a manifested form only in the material creation of the Lord. Prabhupada's very famous statement of time is conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual world. So this Kala Shakti or this Kala Rupa is not there in the spiritual world, it is only there in the material world. So in material world, everything is calculated by time. Why? Because in time, everything ends. So that time or Kala is that Shakti of the Lord which cannot be overcome by anybody. You can only escape it by moving from this material realm to the spiritual realm. And then Maitreya goes on to explain that this Paramanutam, or the atomic time, is the time covered by the sun in passing over an atom, which is called the smallest division of time. And then he speaks about the divisions of time. It's very, very interesting. He speaks about Paramanu, then two Paramanus, they join together and then they are called Anu. Then three Anus together is Trasarenu, and three Trasarenus get together and it is called one Truti, and 100 Trutis is one Veda. Three Veda is one Lava. Three Lava is one Nimesha. Three Nimeshas are one Kshana. 5 Kshanas are one Kashta. 15 Kashtas is one Lagu. This Lagu is where we can start understanding, because Lagu is approximately 2 minutes, Srila Prabhupada says. So beyond that, if you take, for example, the Paramanu time and the Anu and Trasarenu, we cannot measure, it is saying. Truti is somewhat measurable in modern time, because Truti is 8 divided by 13,500 seconds. So this is Truti. You see in our Vedic system how much of deep explanation is there. Okay, so where were we? 1 kshana is 3 nimeshas, and 5 kshanas are 1 kashta, 15 kashtas are 1 lagu, which is 2 minutes. 15 lagus are 1 nadika or 1 danda, which is basically half an hour. 2 dandas is 1 muhurta, which is 1 hour. And 6 to 7 dandas is 1 prahara or 1 yama. And 4 plus 4, 8 praharas is 1 day plus night, which is a 24 hours. And then 15 days and such nights is a fortnight, and the 2 fortnights is 1 month. 2 months are 1 season, 6 months is 1 ayana. Ayana means movement of sun from south to north and then from north to south. And 2 ayanas of the sun will be 12 months in the Bhuloka, and that will be 1 year for the Bhuloka. In this, Prabhupada speaks about this Nimesha. This 1 Nimesha is actually yeah. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I got broken off. So like this time is calculated based on this system in the Vedic calculation. And then Maitreya Muni is continuing that there are 5 different names for the orbits of the sun, moon, stars, and luminaries in the firmament, and they each have their own samvatsara. And O Vidura, the sun enlivens all living entities with his unlimited heat and light. He diminishes the duration of life of all living entities in order to release them from their illusion of material attachment, and he enlarges the path of elevation to the heavenly kingdom. He thus moves in the firmament with great velocity, and therefore everyone should offer him respects once every 5 years with all ingredients of worship. Now, Maitreya is coming to explaining how in the material world, the sun is representing this kala or time. So each of them have a separate samvatsara, meaning year. 1 samvatsara means 1 year. So for the sun, the samvatsara is 365 days. And for Brihaspati, it's called Parivatsara. It is 11.8 years. And then 1 Vatsara is 324 days. Anuvatsara is for Chandra, that is 327 days. Ida Vatsara for other constellation, that is 360 days. So we have mainly this Samvatsara. It is for 1 year for the sun, that is 365 days. And it is said that it is the sun by moving and by his movement the time is passing for the living entity. And by doing this, by moving in such a way, the sun tries to make the living entity understand that he should not be attached to this body. Because as the sun keeps moving, the body's condition will keep diminishing. So then Vidura says, I understand the lifespans of beings in Swarga, Pitru, and earthly planets. Please describe the lifespan of others like Bhrigu, who are beyond the kalpa of Brahma. Because you're a self-realized person, you can understand the movements of eternal time and can see everything by the power of mystic vision. So why Vidura is asking this is because there are also living entities other than Brahma in the material world, that is within this, our prapancha, within this Brahmanda, who also live beyond a kalpa. What is one kalpa? One kalpa we know is the one day of Brahma. So we know that until the topmost planetary systems, everything else will be inundated during Brahma's night. So there must be, Vidura is saying there are living entities who will live beyond that also, beyond one kalpa of Brahma. So please explain. So then, in order to explain that, Maitreya Muni starts speaking about the duration of the yugas. So there he speaks about, we know our calculation of Kali Yuga being 4,32,000, Dwapara 8,64,000, Treta Yuga 12,96,000, and Satya Yuga is 17,28,000. That is 43,20,000 years is what we know to be one Chaturyuga in total. This is actually one Chaturyuga for the Devatas is only 12,000 their years. That is Kali Yuga for Bhuloka is 4,32,000. That same thing for Devatas is 1,200 years only. So they have 1,200, 2,400, 3,600, and 4,800. Total 12,000 Deva Samvatsaras is what one Chaturyuga is. So already from this we understand that although everybody has a limited time or Ayu as we call it, in each planetary system that is different. So in Bhuloka, when I live 100 years, and if I live the same 100 years in the higher Loka, Swarga Loka, it would be a matter of minutes or days only. Why? Because my 4,32,000 years for him is 1,200 years. So see the difference. So this is how we must understand when we speak about Devatas, the various type of living entities that are present in the material world. And Vidura is now speaking about or asking Maitreya to speak about those people who will cross beyond the kalpa also. Okay. So first Maitreya speaks about the duration of the 4 yugas, and then he says that also this includes the yuga sandhyas. That means as the yuga comes to an end, there is a yuga sandhya. So this kalpa calculation or this Chaturyuga calculation already takes into account the yuga sandhya period also. And then Maitreya goes on to say that the first yuga, which is called the Satya Yuga, dharma was practiced in full. And as each yuga goes by, 1/4 part of dharma gets reduced by each yuga. So in Treta Yuga, it was 3/4. In Dwapara Yuga, it became 2/4. In Kali Yuga, it has become 1/4. That means in Treta Yuga, there was 3 parts dharma and 1 part adharma. In Dwapara Yuga, there was 2 parts dharma and 2 parts adharma. In Kali Yuga, there is 1 part dharma and 3 parts adharma. In Satya Yuga, everything is dharma only. There is no adharma. So this also Maitreya Muni, in his course of their discussion, Maitreya Muni is telling this to Vidura. So we know where we are getting this information from. So this is, if tomorrow somebody is asking that where is the reference for this, each yuga dharma diminishing, we can always point to this Vidura Maitreya Samvad in the 11th chapter of the 3rd Canto. Maitreya is telling Vidura how dharma keeps reducing through the yugas. And then he says, above Swargaloka, above Swarga, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Brahmaloka. Okay. There, the duration of 1 day for them is 1000 Chaturyugas. That means they are on the level of Brahmaloka. All these 4 lokas are on the level of Brahma. And at the end of this Brahma, what happens? From Swargaloka to Patalaloka. From Swargaloka to Patalaloka, when Brahma's night ends and the morning starts, he will start creating again. What does that mean? It means Brahmaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka and Brahmaloka remains through the night of Brahma. So this is what Vidura wanted to ask Maitreya, what happens? Where do these people go who stay beyond 1 kalpa? Means stay beyond 1 day of Brahma means they should have a place to stay, when Brahma goes to sleep in the night. So up to Swargaloka, everything inundated. Above Swargaloka, everything remains as it is. And he also speaks then about the Manus. Maitreya says that in 1 day of Brahma, which is otherwise called as 1 kalpa, there are 14 Manus. There are 14 Manus. Each Manu will stay slightly over a period of 71 Chaturyugas. And in each Manvantara, there will be a different set of Saptarishis. There will be Devatas, there will be an Indra, the Manu, they all will appear together. And then that Manu's descendants will appear gradually. So in a Manvantara, there will be Manu, there will be Manuputras, there will be Devatas, there will be Saptarishis, there will be Sureshwara, and there will be an Amshavatara of the Lord. So this is how a Manvantara works. So Saptarishis also change every Manvantara. Devatas also appear along with the Manu. Indra also appears with that particular Manu. So that is our Manvantara. And it happens 14 times during Brahma's day. So you can calculate 1000 divided by 14. That is 71.4. So that is how they stay around 71.4 Chaturyugas, which is something like 8,52,000 Deva Varshas, Deva Samvatsaras, we can say. So these are all complicated calculation of time, which is we are studying in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the daily creation of Brahma, the 3 planetary systems revolve and their residents appear and disappear according to their karmas. During the Manvantaras, the Lord appears in different incarnations, Manvantara Avataras, as Manu and others, and maintain the universe. Sometimes the Lord also appears as Manu. And then how destruction happens at the end of the Kalpa. The Lord, in the form of Kalagni Rudra, destroys the 3 worlds at the end of Brahma's day. The Jivas remain merged in that dissolution and everything is silent. Prabhupada writes that it is like a curtain falling and then everything is dark and very quiet. At that time, the 3 worlds disappear and the sun and moon appear without glare. Prabhupada explains that their glare will not be seen in this submerged portion. Their glare will be seen in the unsubmerged portion in the material world itself. During this time, the residents of Maharloka, distressed by the fire emanating from the mouth of Sankarshana, moved to Janaloka. So, as I said earlier, Maharloka and above, they do not get submerged. Maharloka, they get disturbed by the Kalagni that is coming out of Sankarshana, Mahasankarshana. And so they move to Janaloka. Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka. Those living entities who are there, or those living entities who have got promoted till there, they will all stay there. At the beginning of devastation, all the oceans swell and cover the three worlds. Garbhodari Sai Vishnu remains in that water, lying on Ananta, while being glorified by the residents of Janaloka. So as I said, from Janaloka further, they are not affected by this. So they spend that time to glorify the Supreme Lord, who is lying down as Garbha Udaga Sai Vishnu. And Prabhupada, in one of these purports, Prabhupada writes that it is simply by the strength of Maya that although this whole thing is explained and you can understand that everything has an end, people will live as if there is no tomorrow. You know, people will think that everybody lives as if I will live forever in this body, in this situation, you know. And people are not thinking that I will live forever, but not in this body. It's a very subtle difference, but it is a very big difference. I will live forever as Atma, I live forever. But I am thinking how I can live forever in this particular situation that I am in. Prabhupada says that is Maya. So we may, if we have any, we may be wondering as to why we are studying all these things, all these number of years and this varying time in different worlds. It's basically to understand that up to Brahma, everybody has got death. Up to Brahma, everybody has got death. But even in that Brahma's one day time, we see that people who elevate themselves to a certain level, they are free. While this whole thing is submerged and everything is in inert state, they are engaged in glorifying the Supreme Lord. You see? So, just taking it up further, when one moves from there, even from Brahmaloka to the spiritual realm, then whatever happens, wherever anything happens, at that level, the living entity is always engaged in, always glorifying the Supreme Lord. In a timeless realm, let us say. Because it is a timeless realm, there is no end, so there is no time. But here there is a beginning and there is an end. So there has to be a time factor. And the time and space are all connected very intimately. Thus, the days and nights pass even for Brahma, and his life also comes to an end. One's life endures for only 100 years in terms of the time scales of different planets. So, Maitreya is explaining here that in every planet, the Ayu is 100 years. Give or take a few, this said, that's it. But in our calculation, because, as I said, Devaloka, when you see the Devata Samvatsara, our 432 is there 12,000. So we can compare. So how many years of ours will be there 1 year? Like that we have to compare. So we understand that although that is a very fantastic amount of time, there is an end to that time also. And because there is a fantastic amount of time, don't think they have any advantage, because as far as they are concerned, they are living, you may think that, this 432, 432 by 1200, you may calculate on that basis. No, but for him, it is 1 day, 1 night, like that 100 years only. You understand? So for him, that is what it is. When you say time is relative, this is how it is. But for him, it is like that only, When you come from there to here, you will lose time or gain time. Again, it is a relative. But as long as you're there, you still have got only that 100 years. That is why it is said that when you go to a higher planetary system, it is more dangerous, because here in this 100 years, there is little bit of enjoyment and lot of misery. There, little misery and lot of enjoyment. So what will happen automatically? Here, there is still some chance of getting, oh, I am so tired of all the misery. So the living entity may turn towards God. But there, still so much more to be enjoyed. So where is the time? So getting elevated to higher planetary system, especially Swarga, is very, very risky, because there is so much of enjoyment. And then he speaks about the pararthas. That is, first half of Brahma's life is called the first parartha, and the second is called the second parartha. And currently, the second parartha of Brahma is going on. This information is shared by Maitreya to Vidura. So currently we are on our Brahma's second half of his life is going on. The first day in the first parartha of Brahma's life, also called as Shvetavaraha Kalpa, during which Brahma is born along with the 4 Vedas. The next Kalpa, which followed the first Kalpa, in which the universal lotus comes from the navel of Garbhodara Vishnu, which is called the Padma Kalpa. And then this first day of the second Parartha of Brahma's life, during which Lord Hari appears as Varaha, is called the Varaha Kalpa. So different Kalpas are named differently. First day, first Parartha is called Brahma Kalpa. So that is also called a Shvetavaraha Kalpa, during which Brahma is born along with 4 Vedas. In the second Parartha of Brahma's life also, Lord appears as Varaha. So that is Shvetavaraha, this could be Raktavaraha, like that. Okay. So this Dviparartha of Brahma, entire life of Brahma, is actually only a Nimesha for the Lord. We spoke about Nimesha in the initial calculation of time. What is one Nimesha? One Nimesha is 3 lava. One Nimesha is basically 8 by 15th of a second. 8 by 15 second is one Nimesha. So this whole of Brahma's life, the whole of Brahma's life is actually less than one Nimesha for the Lord. This is explained by Maitreya Muni very interestingly. Kaloyam dvipararthakyo nimesha upacharyate avyakritasyantasya hyanader jagadatmanaha. The duration of the 2 parts of Brahma's life, as above mentioned, is calculated to be equal to one nimesha, which is less than a second, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchanging and unlimited and is the cause of all causes of the universe. So, as far as the Supreme Lord is concerned, this Brahma, who lives a fantastic amount of time, for the Lord it is less than a second. That is why Brahma says, Yasyaika nishvasita kalamathavalambya Jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha Vishnur mahan saiha yasya kala visheshu Govindavadi purusham damaham bhajami. Yasya eka nishvasita kalam. Yasya eka nishvasita kalam. It is simply time for one nishvasita kalam. One nishwasa, one breath of the Lord, that's all it is. This fantastic lifetime of Brahma is just one breath of the Lord. Time is a controller of anyone who is bodily conscious with lifespans between Paramanu and Dviparartha. But time cannot control the Supreme Lord. So, why time becomes important for us is because we are at the level of body consciousness. And therefore, time has an influence on us. And what is the lifespan? From the Paramanu to Dviparartha. That is, the minimum time we all can spend is 1 Paramanu, and the maximum time is the 2 Pararthas, which is 100 years of Brahma. We can, even a living entity can stay through the 100 years of Brahma. If you have perfected yourself to that level, you can also live as long as Brahma. Beyond Brahma, nobody lives in the material world. Beyond 1 Brahma, nobody can live. So either you become inert once again as part of, the suspended animation of the Lord, or you get promoted and go to spiritual world. Only 2 choices. There is no other option. Nasteva, 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 gatiranyatha. And then Maitreya also says the universe with 500 million yojanas diameter and layers of elements covering universes each 10 times thicker than the one before looks as small as a Paramanu when they come out of the bodily pores of Mahavishnu. So now just imagine, when we talk about Mahavishnu, this is the size of Mahavishnu. Universes with 500 million yojanas. Prabhupada says that is 4 billion miles in diameter. And the elements covering the universes each 10 times thicker than the one before. They all look as small as a Paramanu coming out of the body of Mahavishnu. And then he concludes by saying, Maitreya, the 42nd shloka, Tada ahuraksharam brahma sarva karana karanam Vishnor dhama param sakshat Purushasya mahatmanaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is therefore said to be the original cause of all causes. Thus the spiritual abode of Vishnu is eternally without a doubt, and it is also the abode of Mahavishnu, the origin of all manifestations. So, by explaining all about time, Maitreya concludes that one must actually try and understand and surrender to that Lord who is not under the control or under the influence of time. So basically, every living entity in the material platform is under the influence of time. And actually that time is nothing but a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's Shakti that becomes prakat or manifest only in the material world, because the material creation has a beginning and an end. Otherwise, the Lord is not controlled by it. And when one takes full, complete shelter of that Lord who is not controlled by time, one also can become timeless and live forever like that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.